Welcome to a Bunky's Build
video. After I released my box video last year, a neighbor of mine was really interested in having a jewelry trunk made for her.
Have you seen all the jewelry boxes that are available on the market? Well, I have a lot of jewelry and I have one of those boxes, but it's very small and all my jewelry gets cramped in it. I'm sure a lot of women out there have a similar problem. And apparently our neighbor had the same problem. So she asked us to make a giant trunk for her jewelry.
She wanted the box to be made out of black walnut, so I went ahead and resawed the piece for the front and sides.
Then Tim went ahead and planed all the boards to the desired thickness.
I go ahead and cut the boards to the desired size and square them up. Now I set my table saw blade to 45 and then cut my mitered butt joints.
Next step was to cut a rabbet to fit top and the bottom of the box. So Tim went ahead and straightened the saw blade, put a feather board on so the boards don't move around too much, and started cutting the rabbet joints.
I took the boards that I'm planning to use for the top and bottom of the box and the bottom of the inner boxes and cut them to a rough size. Now I went ahead and squared up the boards that I had just cut. Now, using the rabbet as a reference, I went ahead and cut the top and bottom of the box.
Now Tim starts the gluing process. First, he glues up 4 sides of the box with band clamps, and then he glues the top and the bottom, completing the entire outer box. Then he puts more clamps on the box just to make sure it's held together nice and neat.
Now I go ahead and start working on the inner boxes. I mark the boards to about the dimensions that I want. Now I cut the boards to twice the width that I want so I can resaw both the inner boxes at the same time. Now I cut the boards to a rough length and then I square it up.
Tim resaws the roughly cut material to make 2 inner boxes. Unfortunately, this part didn't get recorded. Then he goes ahead and planes the resawed material.
Now I go ahead and cut the boards roughly in half lengthwise. After the outer box dried, I went ahead and sanded down the box so most of the sides are flush.
Now that Tim has at least one side completely flush, he can use that as a reference to square up the rest of the box. Table saw makes a quick work of this. And at last, he cuts the top off and separates it from the rest of the box using table saw.
After separating the top from the bottom of the box, I go ahead and make the bottom of the box nice and flush.
Tim uses the top of the box that he cut earlier to measure out the inner dimensions of this outer box, so he can set his table saw blade to a correct distance and cut out the inner boxes.
I go ahead and cut the 6 boards that need that specific dimension. So I go ahead and measure the length of the box and then cut the boards that require that length. Now I set my table saw blade to 45 so I can go ahead and cut a miter butt joint in all of the boards that require it.
Once all the sides and bottoms of the inner boxes are cut, it's time for glue up. Tim used a band clamp to hold the first box together, but we just have one band clamp, so for the second box, he used a painter's tape trick.
Now I go ahead and cut some sapwood into 45s so I can use them as splines later. I take out my spline jig and cut the splines in the lid first. Now I use the same spline jig and cut multiple splines throughout the main box. I end up making a mistake and end up making the spines a little bit larger in one area, and it ended up looking really well. I just had to cut more splines out of the sapwood.
Tim forgot to record gluing of the splines, but he went ahead and put the splines in and then ran the box through a bandsaw to get the splines flush with the box.
Now I go ahead and set up my sander and start sanding the box until it's nice and smooth all around.
We wanted to make some partitions on the bottommost section of this box. So Tim went ahead and cut out the partitions to certain dimensions that he had measured earlier and then glued the partitions to the box.
We had asked our neighbor if there was anything that she wanted engraved on the box, and I guess she had this keepsake that meant a lot to her, so we went ahead and tried to recreate it the best that we could.
Then we got our laser engraver out and engraved that same symbol on the top of the box.
And now I go ahead and engrave our logo on all of the smaller boxes. I'm glad you stuck around for the big reveal. This box turned out really beautiful, and the inner lining made out of this purple suede was absolutely perfect. Each of the boxes were solid and beautiful, and it just was one of the best projects I've ever done.
These partitions in the bottommost box make it more functional than just having a big open area.
We were able to get our laser engraver to engrave our logo in the bottom of each of the boxes. We made these leather poles with daisy chains in order to pull the boxes out of the larger box. We ended up replacing the leather strap on the side with a golden chain that ended up making it fall better into place and shut nicer. I just really love the look of this box, and it is one of my favorite boxes that I've ever made.
I hope you enjoyed making of this beautiful walnut box. If you did, please go ahead and hit that like button, and please subscribe to our channel. Go ahead and comment down below what we could have done better with the project. Also, don't forget to click the links down below in the description for our social media pages and converse with us on any topic you would like.